Linda was a 50-year-old woman who lived in Lagos, Nigeria. She was rich and worked in a big oil company. Everyone around her respected her because she was successful and kind. People admired how strong she was, but deep inside, she felt lonely. Her husband had died many years ago, and since then, she had not found love again. She missed having someone who truly cared for her, someone who made her feel special. The only joy in her life was her son, Jason. Jason was 27 years old, hardworking, and always happy. He loved his mother more than anything and took care of her the best way he could. They shared a strong bond, and Mrs. Linda always said Jason reminded her of his late father. Jason had a best friend named Mark. Mark was 28 years old, tall, and very handsome. He was funny and smart, and he and Jason had been friends for many years. Jason trusted Mark with everything. Mark often visited Jason's house, and Mrs. Linda treated him like her own son. It was December, and the Christmas season had begun. Jason invited Mark to stay at their house for the holidays, just like they did every year. Mrs. Linda didn't mind because she liked having Mark around. But this time, something was different. The first day Mark arrived, Mrs. Linda noticed something she had never felt before. Mark wasn't just Jason's best friend anymore. He was a man, and for the first time in years, she felt butterflies in her stomach. She was confused. Why am I feeling this way about my son's friend? She thought. At first, she tried to ignore it. But every time she saw Mark walking around the house, her heart raced. He was kind, respectful, and had a way of talking that made her smile. Mrs. Linda had never looked at him this way before, but now she couldn't stop. She felt young again, like a woman who had found love. Mark, on the other hand, didn't notice her feelings at first. But after some time, he started feeling something too. He admired Mrs. Linda's beauty, confidence, and strength. She was different from other women. She was wise, caring, and knew what she wanted. Mark tried to fight his feelings. How can I love my best friend's mother? He thought. He knew Jason would never accept it. But no matter how much he tried, his feelings for Mrs. Linda only grew stronger. Whenever they were alone, he imagined what it would be like to be with her. He wanted to hold her, love her, and take care of her. But he was afraid. He knew Jason would be angry. He knew it could destroy their friendship. But Mark also knew that love was not something he could control. One afternoon, Mark decided he couldn't hide his feelings anymore. He had to tell Jason the truth. He went to Jason's house, feeling nervous. Jason was in the living room watching football on TV. Mark sat beside him and took a deep breath. "Bro, there's something I need to tell you," he said. Jason laughed, thinking it was a joke. "What is it? Did you break up with another girl again?" he teased. Mark shook his head. "No, it's serious," he said. "It's about your mom." Jason's smile disappeared. He looked confused. "What about my mom?" he asked. Mark hesitated for a moment, then finally said, "I have feelings for her. I think I am in love with her." Jason's face turned red with anger. "What did you just say?" he shouted, standing up. "I know it sounds bad, but I couldn't hide it anymore. I respect you, but I love her," Mark explained, trying to calm him down. Jason couldn't believe his ears. He grabbed Mark by the shirt. "You're joking, right? You want to date my mother? My own mother," he yelled. "I'm not joking, Jason. I'm serious about her," Mark said, pulling away. Without thinking, Jason punched Mark in the face. "You're a disgrace. How could you even think about this? You're supposed to be my friend." Mark wiped the blood from his lips and said, "I'm sorry, but I can't help how I feel." Jason pointed at the door. "Get out of my house. And don't you ever come near my mother again. If you do, you'll regret it." Despite Jason's warning, Mark and Mrs. Linda couldn't stay away from each other. They began meeting in secret. At first, Mrs. Linda was nervous. She knew Jason would be upset if he found out. "Mark, are you sure about this?" she asked one evening. They were sitting in a private restaurant, far away from anyone who knew them. "Yes, I've never been more sure of anything," Mark replied, holding her hand. "You're everything I've been looking for, and I don't care what anyone thinks." Mrs. Linda smiled. For the first time in years, she felt truly loved. She began to trust Mark more and more. They went on dates, talked about their future, and dreamed of a life together. One evening, as they walked by the beach, Mark held her close. I want to be with you forever. I don't care if Jason hates me. I'll prove to him that I'm serious about us. Mrs. Linda sighed. I hope he understands one day, she said. One night, Mark arrived at Mrs. Linda's house with a bouquet of red roses. He was dressed in a suit and looked nervous. Why are you so dressed up? Mrs. Linda asked, laughing. I have something important to say, Mark said. Then, he got down on one knee. Mrs. Linda gasped. Mark, what are you doing? Mark pulled out a small box and opened it, revealing a diamond ring. Linda, you have changed my life in so many ways. I want to spend the rest of my life making you happy. Will you marry me? Tears filled Mrs. Linda's eyes. She nodded. Yes. Yes, I'll marry you. They hugged and Mark slipped the ring onto her finger. A few weeks later, Mrs. Linda had more news. As they sat in the living room, she held Mark's hand and said, There's something I need to tell you. What is it? Mark asked. I'm pregnant, she said softly. Mark's eyes widened. Pregnant? Are you sure? He asked. Yes, I took a test. You're going to be a father, she said with a nervous smile. Mark smiled and hugged her. This is amazing news. We're going to be a family. Jason had been avoiding his mother and Mark ever since the fight. But one day, while scrolling through social media, he saw something that made his blood boil. It was a picture of his mother wearing an engagement ring, standing beside Mark. The caption read, Forever and always. Can't wait to spend my life with you. Furious, Jason stormed into his mother's house that evening. Mom, what is this nonsense I'm seeing online? He shouted, throwing his phone on the table. Mrs. Linda sighed. Jason, I was going to tell you. Mark and I are getting married. Jason's jaw dropped. You're marrying him, after everything I told you. The day of the wedding arrived. The venue was decorated beautifully. As Mrs. Linda walked down the aisle, Jason sat outside in his car, staring at the gun beside him. I want them, he muttered. Moments later, as the priest asked if anyone objected, Jason stood up. I object, he shouted, pulling out the gun. The guests screamed, You betrayed me, Mark. Jason yelled. Then, in a fit of rage, he pulled the trigger. Mark collapsed. Mrs. Linda screamed, holding his lifeless body. The police arrived and arrested Jason. As they took him away, he whispered, I didn't want it to end like this. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to watch more interesting videos on my YouTube channel.